It is Monday night. It's time for the live show. Welcome to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm back on doing another show. I'm excited to be here. Just a reminder that you can catch a rebroadcast of this show on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. And that is a radio station out of Noonan, Georgia. I've been on that radio station for almost 2 years now. Yes, January, it's going to be 2 years. I am so excited to be here. I plan on doing a live show Monday nights and Wednesday nights. So if you want to be a guest, just hit me up. I'll try to get you on the show. Before you do anything, go and hit that like button for my Facebook page, The Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I know that you're going to be happy that you do. I'm also promoting Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So go and like that Facebook page as well and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is where all the content that Thrift Behringer and I do on a weekly basis gets loaded into that show. We have a bunch of live streams. We have some coaches shows. We have weekly shows where we run down all the scores in high school football, college football, the NFL. So I just continue doing extra shows because the more times you do shows, the better you're going to be a broadcaster. I've done 714 episodes of this show. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of every single one of the shows. Started this podcast back in January 31st of 2020. And I don't necessarily think that I ever had a bad show. I always give the content that you want. I always wanted to center this podcast around local sports in Columbus, and I have achieved my goal. We do have a busy week in high school football, college football, and the NFL. I will get into that shortly. But just a reminder on what is going on. Don't forget, tomorrow on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, Thrift Behringer and I will have our weekly show. It's going to air at 7:30. You want to check it out on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel. I know a lot of you out there don't subscribe to my YouTube channel or Facebook page, but if anything, just give Georgia Alabama Sports Live a like and subscribe. Yeah, my audience was growing at one time. Yeah, that was like 3 years ago before the pandemic. I don't know what happened where the pandemic happened and I lost all my listeners and the viewership. But now trying to build my audience back up. Still have a very successful radio station, but I don't have as many guests on as I used to. And that's because it is very hard to get guests on a daily basis. I try to have a weekly guest. I had Gabe Reynolds on yesterday. He was such a great guest. I've had guests on like Kevin Eckelberry and Philip Jordan. But I think that having frequent guests on every day, it got to be too much. And what I want to do is just continue putting out great content, not only for the radio station at WQEE, but also for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Hey, I got a special announcement. October the 6th, that is on Friday, I'm going to be live in the studio with Ryan O'Neal for his morning show, Ryan O'Neal Radio Penitentiary. I'm looking forward to that. Hey, we can get into some pop culture. He talks about sports. He talks about news. He talks about pop culture. The biggest pop culture phenomenon right now is that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are dating. So why not talk about that? Hey, we got a big game in college football this weekend. Georgia taking on Auburn. It's the Deep South's oldest rivalry. On the Plains, Georgia is still ranked number one. Auburn still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. I'm not sure if Peyton Thorne is the quarterback. And Robbie Ashford, even though he is a playmaker and he's a threat in the red zone, can't really throw the ball like a quarterback. He's more like a running back. But this is a very special rivalry because being in the Chattahoochee Valley, Columbus, Georgia, is where I broadcast this show. Columbus is an Auburn town. Auburn's only 45 minutes away from Columbus. But because we are in Columbus, Georgia, we have a lot of Georgia fans too. So there are passionate fans on both sides, and I have plenty of time this week to talk about the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And I know it lost a little bit of lackluster, but that's okay. That's okay. We will get into it as well as all the other games that's happening in college football, high school football. We don't have a game on Thursday for Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but we will have a doubleheader as Thrift Behringer, Rick Beach, they are going to be at Harris County for Sandy Creek taking on Harris County. I am going to be at my old stomping grounds in Russell County as they are taking on the Valley Rams for homecoming. I am pleased to announce that I'm going to be calling a Russell County game back at Corbett Stadium for the first time in a year, and I'm really looking forward to it. Russell County, they have not won a game yet, but they are going to continue to improve. I mean, they put up 36 points up against Wetumpka. I think that Russell County needs to continue to improve, and they should be fine. And I'm really thrilled to call a game at Russell County. And we just have a lot of action around high school football, including Jordan taking on Spencer, Carver taking on Columbus. Great matchups. Region play is now starting in high school football. We got Glenwood, homecoming, Valiant, Cross Academy. You have Central on a bye as they get ready for Dothan next week. And then you also have Brookstone taking on Westlake School. And then you also have Calvary Christian that is on a bye. So all the teams in and around Columbus, don't forget, I'm going to have my high school football review show on Friday. And I'll tell you what, since we're not calling a game on Thursday, I might go live on Thursday as well. But I don't want to go live right at 8 o'clock because that's when Josh Pate has his show. So I pay homage to Josh Pate. I try not to have my live show at the exact same time as Josh Pate because out of respect for Josh Pate and Pate State and everything that he has to offer for college football is just a fascinating show. I don't want to compete with that. First of all, he has really been a role model. I look up to him because I followed his broadcasting career recently, maybe in the last couple of years. Wish I could have followed it even more. I did move to Columbus in 2015. If I knew what I knew now, that if I knew back then in 2015, I would have been one of the first people to line up at 95.7 and try to be a guest on the press box with Bobby Z. But I didn't even know about it. And I was brand new to Columbus. I didn't even know about everything and the local sports scenery that was going on in Columbus. It really wasn't until 2019 when I got involved in broadcasting. But my broadcasting career started way back when I was a broadcasting major at Freed Harmon back in 1999. The question always comes up, why did you wait so long to get back into broadcasting? Well, that's a very good question. Life happens. I'm in the military. I deployed twice, had a family. It's not that I never forgot that passion and that I wanted to do it. I've always wanted to do broadcasting, but look at the markets that I lived in before Columbus: Atlanta, Memphis, Sacramento. There were no opportunities there to pursue broadcasting. And even if I knew somebody to get my foot in the door, and that is exactly what I would have done, but I never had that opportunity. Sometimes it's about opportunity. It's about striking the iron while it's hot. And in the past 2 years, I've been grinding. It started out when I was a public address announcer for Russell County, which led to the Columbus Rapids nearly 2 years ago. December of 2021 was when I got the call from the former Columbus Rapids owner, Jason Gibson, when he asked me, hey, do you want to be the announcer for the Columbus Rapids? And I wasn't a soccer guy at the time. I actually go back and I listen to the old broadcast. It actually didn't sound that too bad. Not bad for a guy who didn't really know the game of soccer like most soccer purists out there do. But in my opinion, play-by-play is play-by-play. You can make anything sound exciting, and that's what I love to do. I love to do play-by-play. It led to the Columbus Lions. It also led to the Columbus Chattahoots and the Chattahoochee Monsters. And who knows, maybe someday I can be up in the booth with Tom Callahan and we could call some River Dragons games together. But I truly been blessed that Thrift Behringer took a chance on me, and I am part of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And it has been a great experience calling games on the live stream. By the way, this is the future. The future is live streaming. And who would have thought that you can turn on the phone and see like a Jordan Columbus game or a Shaw Northside game? We had this vision, and I wanted to give Columbus schools love. I know the Thrift Behringer did as well, but we also want to give love to the private schools as well. We want to give the best coverage to all the schools in the Chattahoochee Valley. We even go to Flint River up in Woodbury, Georgia. It has been absolutely incredible, and I've had a great time with this experience. So back to my broadcasting experience, 2 years, I was the play-by-play announcer for the Columbus Rapids. Unfortunately, the Columbus Rapids have folded as a franchise. There is a new team in the NISL based out of Columbus, Georgia. It is called Foundry FC. Not sure why they had to change the name of the team because I still have all my Rapids gear. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Go buy Foundry FC gear? It was confusing, but it is what it is. It is a business. I understand. Probably not going to be the announcer going into 2024 for Foundry FC. It's not. It's with all due respect. It's, if they ask me, I'm flattered. But at this point in my broadcasting career, I need to get paid, and I don't think that they can accommodate me with that. Just go get a soccer guy. Get like a soccer purist that loves the game of soccer. It would be just a great opportunity for one of those up and coming broadcasters like I was 2 years ago. That's why I was able to call these games for free, and I was actually okay with it because I was an unknown 2 years ago. Now, 2 years later, I've established myself as a broadcaster, and I believe in the vision of Thrift Behringer. And that's why I'm going to stay with Georgia Alabama Sports Live as long as I can, because the sky is the limit. We are just continuing to live stream, produce coach shows, have weekly scoreboard shows, have incredible guests like DJ Jones, Dave Plata. It's absolutely incredible. And yeah, I know. Absolutely incredible is one of my clutch words. Hey, the Eagles about to go 3-0. They are beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 25-3. You got the Rams beating the Bengals 6-3. Later on this week, I'm going to have my NFL power rankings. And spoiler alert, it's not the 49ers that's the number one team. I believe the Miami Dolphins are the number one team after putting up a 70 spot against the Denver Broncos. And no, I did not play anybody in fantasy that had Raheem Mostert. That was just incredible. I mean, I'm glad I didn't have the Denver defense because they gave up more than 700 yards. So we got high school football this week. I will break down all the games on Friday and the game of the week as well, which more likely it's going to be Sandy Creek and Harris County. And then let's go ahead and break down some of the college football. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my phone, as you can see, because college football, week 5, and we're gonna start with the local teams. Let's go ahead and start with Georgia Tech. I try to give Georgia Tech some love, but if you want to get the full coverage of Georgia Tech, just listen to the Crowded Booth with Bryce Kuhn. I am plugging your podcast, Bryce, because I know you're a big Georgia Tech guy, being the play-by-play announcer for Georgia Tech baseball. That is awesome. Bryce Kuhn, a big shout out, a Columbus, Georgia native. Georgia Tech taking on Bowling Green. And Georgia Tech is favored by 22.5. Not a bad line there. And then when you look at some of the other teams, let's give a shout out to the Fun Belt League, because Georgia State's 4-0. Georgia State is hosting Troy. Troy is 2-2. I know that Philip Jordan covers Troy down in the Wiregrass. So a big shout out to Philip Jordan. He was actually on the show last week. I'm trying to get him on in the next couple of weeks. And Georgia Southern is hosting Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina did lose to Georgia State on Thursday night. Man, I wish Coach Bennett was there at Coastal Carolina. That was my favorite part about Coastal Carolina. Yes, their college baseball team did win a College World Series, but I loved Coach Bennett. You need to be more like a dog. I hope I said that right. I did. We don't need a bunch of cats in here. No, hang on a second. You need to be more like a dog. Love it. I love when coaches have personalities. I love the coaches' rants, like Coach Gundy. I'm a man. I'm 40. Yes, when I turned 40. Yes, I did have that as a Facebook meme. But yeah, it's nice to see the Georgia teams doing well. Moving on to Mercer. I like talking about Mercer. A big shout out. They're taking on VMI. Kickoff at 4 p.m. at Five Star Stadium in Macon. And Mercer is 2-2 on the season. Hey, how about those Kennesaw State Owls who are about to go into the Conference USA next year? They are taking on Charleston Southern. Now, Kennesaw State, 1-3. I mean, they, after losing to Tennessee Tech last week, 17-7, they're having a tough time as they have lost 3 straight games after starting the year 1-0. And we know that Kennesaw State is trying to make that transition to FBS, which they are going to be in the Conference USA. Imagine seeing Kennesaw State in a bowl game. That would be great for the school. We saw that a couple years ago with Georgia Southern and Georgia State when they made the transition to FBS. Like I mentioned, Georgia is taking on Auburn, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Alabama is taking on Mississippi State. Yeah, that's right. Let's look at the SEC because this is SEC country. I broadcast out of Columbus, Georgia. We do have a lot of fan bases here. But if you love college football, go and listen to the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate. He's aired on Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night, all at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And you might even get a chalice of supremacy if you plug his show. Anyway, Florida taking on Kentucky. Noon kickoff. You got Texas A&M taking on Arkansas in Jerry World. Missouri, ranked Missouri, huh? How about that? Taking on Vanderbilt. LSU and Ole Miss, both teams are 3-1. South Carolina taking on Tennessee. South Carolina getting a big win against Mississippi State. And Mississippi State 2-2. They are off to a very slow start, getting 2 straight losses. One to LSU, one to South Carolina, taking on an Alabama team that's favored by 2 touchdowns. ACC matchup. I love this. Friday night, Louisville, still undefeated, taking on NC State. Their only blemish was a loss to Notre Dame. Clemson taking on undefeated Syracuse. Virginia's 0-4. They're the only team in college football that's 0-4, taking on Boston College. That's 1-3. Like I mentioned, Bowling Green taking on Duke. This is a very exciting game. Notre Dame taking on Duke. Both teams are in the top 25. Notre Dame, they didn't drop that far after losing on a close play to Ohio State, 17-14. Notre Dame taking on the Duke Blue Devils. And Riley Leonard, this could be a coming out party for Riley Leonard, projected to be a top 5 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And then Pitt and Virginia Tech, both teams are 1-3. Hey, looking at the Big Ten, don't really see any big-time ranked matchups. Michigan is taking on Nebraska, and Penn State is taking on Northwestern. Ohio State is on a bye, but Ohio State still has some tough games, like against Penn State, at Wisconsin, and at the Big House for Michigan. Hey, I had a hot sports take the other day. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine, because you can always write it in the comments. Hey, you don't agree with me. So Michigan State, they fired Mel Tucker. So they're looking at replacing Mel Tucker. And I had a crazy idea. I know that Michigan State fans are like, well, bring back Mark D'Antonio. Okay, sure, why not? How about Urban Meyer? Yes, there is one coach out there that can turn around a program, and that is Urban Meyer. Now, he was a disaster in Jacksonville. I understand. That was just a circus. I mean, come on. Bringing Tim Tebow on as a tight end? Seriously. But Urban Meyer could turn around Michigan State. Look at what he did at Ohio State. Have you seen the Florida documentary on Netflix? And look, I know you look at Urban Meyer's record without Tim Tebow. It's not all that great. It's still better than most SEC coaches for that time period. Now, the portal is just wide open. But hey, Dabo Swinney really needs to embrace the transfer portal. That's all I'm going to say about that. Clemson is in trouble. They already got 2 losses, and we're not even to October. All right. I know I'm jumping through here, but I just want to give you a good show. NFL. Yeah, the Buccaneers finally scored 25-11. The Eagles leading the Buccaneers in the fourth quarter. It's halftime. The Rams taking on the Bengals. Is Joe Burrow playing in this game? Yes, he is, but he is abysmal. 17 for 31, 144 yards. That is not going to get it done. Hey, so on Thursday, I'm going to make my NFL picks, as the Thursday night game is the Detroit Lions taking on the Green Bay Packers. Winner of this game takes over first place in the NFC North. The Packers are a 1-point underdog at home. Wow, I am very impressed with that line. The Lions might be really good, especially after just shutting down the Falcons like they did on Sunday. Hey, those Atlanta Falcons are going to be over in London across the pond taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. 9:30 in the morning. I highly recommend you record this game. Please do not be that person that's sitting in church looking at the score on your phone. Trust me, I am guilty of this. I have done this before. We go to church at about 9:30 and we have Bible class at 9:30, worship at 10:30. And between Bible class and worship, I have pulled out my phone and I've checked the score on the international game that starts at 9:30. Yes, I am guilty of this. I'm here to say, as a Christian, I feel that that time should be devoted to God. But I'm human. I make mistakes. I've done this before. I'm just saying, but I can understand why people in the South really like college football better than the NFL, because the NFL is on Sunday and Sunday is time for worship for people living in the Bible Belt. But the Falcons are a 3-point underdog. The Miami Dolphins and the Bills. This is going to be a very intriguing game. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 2.5. I would take the points here. I think the Dolphins are the best team in the NFL. I got them number 1 in my power rankings. Here's a snooze fest. Can they flex this game out? The Broncos taking on the Bears. Both teams 0-3. Broncos favored by 3.5. The Bears need a new quarterback. The Bears are exactly who we thought they were. Justin Fields. Look, I like Justin Fields. I'm a fan of his. He's from Kennesaw. I want to see him do well. Maybe it's the fact that he has a defensive coach. If Justin Fields goes in the right system, he should be fine. Same with Trey Lance in Dallas. Baltimore and Cleveland, both teams are 2-1. I like that game too. The Steelers and the Texans. The Texans shocked everybody after beating the Jaguars. But the Steelers, 2-1 after getting blown out by the 49ers in week 1. Not too bad by the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Vikings and the Panthers, both teams are 0-3. Something's got to give. You're going to have an 0-4 team. Of course, unless they tie. The Rams and the Colts. Rams right now, they are tied with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Buccaneers and the Saints. That's going to be a good game. There is no line on that one. The Commanders and the Eagles. The Eagles are probably going to go 3-0 after tonight. And that means you will have 3 teams in the NFL that are 3-0. And then the 72 Dolphins can just sit back on pins and needles and wait it out. Nobody's going 17-0. So, the 72 Dolphins can celebrate once again this year. The Bengals taking on the Titans. There's something wrong with the Bengals. There's really something wrong with the Titans. I think that Ryan Tannehill is not the answer at quarterback. It's a shame that I don't get Brad Page here on the show anymore because I know he's a big Titans fan and he could really talk up the Tennessee Titans. A big shout out to Brad Page, my former co-host of the Up All Night show. And we've had a long working relationship on the Up All Night show. I could get into why that show got canceled, but that's for another show. Yes. You might want to tune into that one because I've had some fun stories about the Up All Night show. The Raiders taking on the Chargers, 1-2, both teams. And the Patriots taking on the Cowboys. The Patriot way, working with Bill Belichick. They got the win. I think it's a battle of both defenses. Maybe the Cowboys can clean up some of their mess, but they've got to play with a lead. And I heard on Colin Cowherd earlier today that with Trayvon Diggs out, they lost the best cover corner in the National Football League. And so they can't play aggressive on defense anymore because they don't want to get that corner that's taking the place of Trayvon Diggs to get burned. So they don't take chances like they did on defense. You saw what the Cowboys did their first two games. They had a stifling defense, but it also was a testament to how bad the Giants and the Jets were. But I think that the Cowboys are going to ride the ship, and they are going to get the win over the Patriots as they get ready for that big, epic Sunday night football game against the 49ers in 2 weeks. Speaking of those 49ers, 3-0, I don't have them as the best team in the NFL. They are number 2 in my rankings. Brock Purdy is better than advertised. Nick Wright. And look, I went off on yesterday's show. Pretty much dissed Nick Wright for dissing Brock Purdy. But this is who Nick Wright is. He is a sports personality with incredible talent, but he is known for his hot sports takes. And his hot sports take that Brock Purdy is not elite or not a good quarterback is just as bad as my hot sports take when I got on Twitter that said Alabama could go 6-6 this year. No, that's not happening. Alabama in any universe is not going 6-6. And there are plenty of multiverses in the MCU that has Alabama not going 6-6. I mean, if you're a fan of the multiverse. Anyway, the Sunday night football game, I wish they would flex this out. They only have this as a Sunday night football game because they anticipated it was going to be Mahomes versus Rodgers. It's the Chiefs and the Jets. On second thought, keep this here for Sunday night so you could show more of Taylor Swift. I'm sure that Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood, all the people, get ready for a Sunday night. I'm sure Taylor Swift is going to be seen in that pretty soon. Anyway, and the Monday Night Football game is the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New York Football Giants. Boy, I'm having fun on this show. I do extra shows because I just want to get better at doing this. I love doing sports broadcasting, and I love just talking about sports, and having the sports beat gives me creative control to put out the content that you want to hear, and I know that you enjoy it. So please, please do me a favor, like and subscribe to the show on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also catch an episode of this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts, just in case you're in the car and you want to hear the sports beat and you don't want to see this face and you just want to hear the audio, because the audio can be incredible at times as well. I spent the first 2 years of this show doing just audio, so you'll get used to it. It's fine. Oh, boy, what do we have? Okay, I'm about to sign off, but don't forget, tomorrow, 7:30 on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel. It is the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show with Thrift Behringer and myself. We are going to preview high school football, NFL, college football, everything that's happening in and around the Chattahoochee Valley. I want to thank all my listeners that have watched the show on Facebook and on YouTube. I hope everybody has a great rest of your night. and I am out of here.